Boom. Alrighty.
Nice.
So listeners, everybody that is watching this on their computer screens or however you do it, welcome back to RecruitingU. Michael, super excited to have you on board. And as our listeners know, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we love to start off these things with a really, really nice, dumb, however you want to categorize it, fun fact. So I'm not sure if you are aware, but the shortest sentence in the English vocabulary is go, but it also has the longest implicated meaning. That was the reaction I was hoping for.
Fantastic. I watched a couple of the other episodes, and you had the one about I think it was with Cam, when it was like you don't use the letter A when you're spelling out numbers until like 1,000. I was like, why would I have ever thought of that? Like, my mind was blown, but then I was like, why would I ever think about that? So.
That's you got the point of those. Yeah, I started.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah. Saying it, but yeah, turning the mic over to you. So give us a little background introduction and something I feel like your colleagues or anybody listening to this wouldn't exactly pick up on as far as something about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Michael Nuttall, I'm a campus recruiter, which is why I'm on this podcast, right? So a little bit more unique of a background. I heard somebody else on one of your episodes make the comment, like, does anybody actually ever plan on going into campus recruiting when, like when they come out of college? And like, I definitely fit into that category of not planning on that. I got an accounting degree from Miami, and I graduated in 2014, Miami University, the real one in Oxford, Ohio, not the fake one down in Florida. And I did the whole CPA track. And so did the CPA exam the summer after I graduated, summer 2014. It was probably the most boring, but most rewarding summer that I've ever had. And then started my career, with BKD. So it's a public accounting firm. And I started in the tax department there in Cincinnati, and did that for a couple of years, then just really kind of figured out that it's not what I wanted to do long term. But like a lot of people, I was like, oh, what do I want to do? So I actually tried to dabble in a little NFL scouting for a little bit. That didn't go well. And so in that time, I ended up transitioning over into the campus recruiter role with BKD, and that's where I've been for about 3 years now, actually. And so just, not really what I planned on doing with my career, but it's one of those things that it's like, you got into it, and I said I'd try it out for 6 months, and 6 months turned into 3 years. And now I'm on a podcast talking about recruiting because this is where my life has taken me, and it's great. So as far as, like things that, something interesting about me, I don't know if it's interesting, but I'm a pretty open book. So like, I know you like prep me for this, like share like an interesting fact that people wouldn't know. I'm like, man, I tell everybody everything, which may not be a good thing. I have this like really unique, like when I'm talking to somebody or like any situation, the way I'm processing it in my head is like, if I were to write this into a news article, how would that be read? Like, how would that look as a news article? I know I don't like writing. I don't do a lot of writing, but just the way that I process things and the way that I process informations or conversations that I have with people or situations I find myself in, I'm just like, man, if this was a news article, like what would that look like? And that's not really something I share with a lot of people, probably for obvious reasons.
Well, I thought you had me with the NFL scout. And
yeah.
And throw this curveballs. All right.
Man, we could do a whole separate podcast on that.
Yeah, seriously, the zigzags. Well, let me ask you then, just real quick, because I got to know, and I'm getting this itch. What is the classic NFL scout look? I mean, what's your khaki game like? What,
right.
How many polos were you rocking for those few months?
Well, it was funny. So I went down to, I went down to the Senior Bowl, so down in Mobile, Alabama a couple of times. And so I did like an online like scouting school and everything. That was great. It was super educational. It was an awesome process. And it got me down there and I got a network and stuff. And they actually told me, they're like, don't dress up for this. They're like, try to look as normal or casual as possible. And so like, I was like, I guess I'll just wear t-shirts the entire time. So I didn't have to like run out and like change my whole wardrobe or anything. But if you want to paint like a stereotypical picture, like you're definitely going to see like, yeah, probably like a athletic looking like quarter zip with either jeans or khaki pants, maybe a hat. You're probably walking around with either a notebook or a clipboard or something like that. So,
and
yeah.
is that your campus recruiting look as well? Because
It's
in a weird
close.
way, you are scouting, right?
Somebody made that connection to me. One of the managing partners for the office, one of the offices that I recruit for, he made that comment. He's like, you're just doing that, but for accountants, right? I was like, I hadn't put that together, but I like it. It's good.
There you go. And then give me 30 seconds. I'm going to do a 40-yard dash of
my
charger to my outlet so it doesn't die. All right? You can time me if you want.
Oh, you're on it. That's what I do. And this is why I brought my coffee. That was good.
What was that?
That was the best charger to computer time I've seen. So straight to the pros.
There you go. I didn't say it, you said it, but let's let's dive right into it because I know people are excited. So Michael, I mean, I've come in this hypothetical scenario, I've come to your workshop where you help other campus recruiters like me really hone in on their craft. And for me right now, I'm in a weird predicament where I know I need to have a lot of partnerships with my university partners, but I just don't really have that network. So I hear recruiters go and say, hey, talk to faculty, talk to career services, talk to yada, yada, but it's zero in my virtual Rolodex, right? I've got nobody and I kind of feel alone. So how do I start to even initiate those relationships and then hopefully get to a point where I can strengthen them?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you started off right in the sense of like where you want to start and the idea of connecting with faculty, connecting with people in career services, because I know, so like when I look back into when I first started my career in campus recruiting, I should say, my thought is like, how do I just start meeting students? And the thing that you quickly find out in campus recruiting is that students come and they go and they come and they go and they come and they go. So if you're relying strictly on those relationships with students, you're going to have to be recreating a lot of relationships over and over. And so that's where, like you said, meeting the faculty, meeting the career service folks is a key really to sustaining your campus recruiting process, I would say. But so you're starting off, you're brand new, where do you go? I think the biggest thing that you need to do is take a look at your network, your own personal network. Doesn't even have to be through the scope of campus recruiting. Look at who you know, and then start to figure out, how can I tie this into a connection into like a campus or something like that. It's one of those things where you never know who knows somebody. And so much of campus recruiting, so much of getting connected with folks is being able to just get connected to them and then start talking. Because one of the things you'll find, especially with career services, like people who work in career services, their jobs are to get their students jobs. That's why they're in career services, right? And so they're wanting to connect with people that can get their students to jobs. But how do you go about meeting them? Again, that's where you're looking at your current network. And it's like, do I know anybody who maybe has a strong connection to a university, have a strong connection to somebody in the career services, things like that, and start to utilize those relationships that you have there. That's not good.
The reason that it was the fastest 40-yard dash was because I only hooked up the laptop end of my charger and not.
Oh no. It's funny. We were doing just like a video call with my wife's parents yesterday. We do that like once a week so that they can see their grandson and everything. And like literally same exact situation happened. Like all of a sudden, like we're on the call and all of a sudden they're just gone. And my mother-in-law, so my wife's mom, she like texts us. She's like, "Oh yeah, no, the computer died." We're like, "Oh well, yeah, it happens. So
yeah, there you go. So completely a big blunder on me. Clearly, I'm still
no, it's okay.
progress, but
This is why you schedule the 30 minutes, right? I got you.
So we were on to something, right? You mentioned, okay, start from my own personal network,
Yeah.
and then I abruptly vanished.
Yes. So pretty much, so like what I was saying. So the idea is, I think with anything, check your network. You never know who is connected to where, right? So look and see, is there anybody key that maybe already has relationships with somebody, a key individual on a university, whether that's faculty, whether that's in the career services or things like that. Maybe they're just a prominent alumni, or they give a lot of money or something like that. You just don't know. So take a look at your network and see, and then start to figure out, like where can I add in that value by layering in some new people and everything. So utilizing some already connection or somebody already in your network, I think is the strongest way to go. But then if you don't be afraid to just reach out to folks on campus. One of the things you'll find out very, very quickly is that people that work in career services, a lot of faculty and things like that, they want their students to get hired, right? That's their goal. That's what gets them out of bed. And so if you're a campus recruiter saying, hey, I'm hiring for jobs, I want to hire your students, people are going to be pretty open to meeting with you, right? So I think then it's understanding those key relationships. So understanding that you need to have those relationships with folks in the career services, you need to have those relationships with the faculty and things like that. And then start to just reach out. How do you find these people if you don't have the connections? I mean, go on every website for a school, check out the career section there. A lot of universities are using Handshake, things like that. I mean, you can find the contact information anywhere, and then don't be afraid to just reach out to this person and introduce yourself. But I think the big thing then is, what do you do once you have that connection? And that's where it then becomes actually strengthening that relationship. And right now we find ourselves obviously in a very unique time. We're all on Zoom, we're all on, Skype and Google Hangouts and everything, and we're all connecting via LinkedIn and everything. But at some point, you actually have to be a person, and like that person has to be a person to you. And so you need to still take that time and invest 30 minutes in a phone call, invest 30 minutes in a video call or something like that, so that they get to know you. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're building your own personal brand with that person, who then feels comfortable with who you are, what you're selling, what you're recruiting for, and then be able to then direct their students to that. So it's, as we all get longer into this stay-at-home thing and the quarantine, whether it's getting lifted or not, that's again another discussion. But it's still so important to be more than just somebody who posts a lot on LinkedIn. You gotta still be the recruiter. You still have to take the time to connect with people and build the relationships, the actual relationships, and not just emails back and forth and things like that. I had one of the managing partners I worked for made a comment that he's like, especially public accounting, he's like, this is such a people business. He's like, if we get down to just numbers, he said, we'll lose every time. We charge too much money, like blah, blah, blah. He said, but he makes the point that he's like, you can be anybody at anything, at gmail.com or whatever. He's like, so you can create whatever picture. He's like, but at the end of the day, they're only going to buy that. And if that's not what you're actually selling, eventually, like, that's going to catch up to you, right? Like, that's not going to be good enough. You need to still make that person-to-person connection, socially distanced or not, So yeah, I think that getting those connections there are huge, and kind of going from there. And then I think it's then starting to look at how you can utilize those relationships, right? Once that connection's made, where can you start to fit in as far as getting connected to key students or student organizations and things like that. And so, I think about one of my own personal connections at a university that I recruit at. She's a career coach. And so, we got connected early on, and I got connected to her through another connection at another university. She used to work for this director of career services at this other university and everything. Through that relationship, I then ended up getting connected with, the president of this accounting organization, and then next thing I know, like I'm able to start presenting to their opening meeting for the semester. Like the first recruiter that a lot of these students ever meet is me, and they're hearing about my company and things like that. And so it's, it's starting with, like what we've been saying, starting with the faculty, it's starting with those career service folks, then utilizing that to then get you tied into some of those key students and things like that.
So I guess let me double down on it just a little bit, because I think where like the why behind my question came from was specifically around faculty. And I have heard horror stories, right, from other recruiters saying, hey, I have sent out, some emails here and there to career services folks, to faculty. They never get back to me.
Yeah.
And we usually come to the reason that it's one of two things. One, the email is the same cookie cutter template, right? And so it's like, okay, well, what do I do there? Or second, it's hard because they just come back kind of just bouncing you around to different areas. Like, hey, talk to so-and-so or talk to so-and-so. Yeah. So I guess addressing the first point of the impersonalized messages. I mean, what messages in your world have really worked for you or other recruiters, would you say, that have gotten career services folks back?
Yeah. I would say, well, so specifically with faculty, so like when we're talking about the professors, I think you really need to rely on alumni. So like, I agree with you that I don't think any email that I send on my own is going to work. Hey, I'm Michael Nuttall. I'm not an alumni of the school. I recruit at 10 different schools, right? I'm not an alumni of 10 different schools. So I already like don't have that card, right? So if I'm just coming at them, I'm Michael Nuttall, I'm a recruiter, I want to hire your kids. They're like, everybody does. Great. Adding that personal element to it, right? Hey, I'm Michael Nuttall. I work with Rishav. He is an alumni of your school. He talked about your taxation class and he loved it. I would love to talk to you more about your taxation class. It's something that I recruit for and like I have a decent understanding of, and I would love to hear what the students are interested in. Don't even make it about hiring students at first. How can we just connect, right? How can we have more of a relationship than just, hey, help me do my job, right? Because at the end of the day too, as a recruiter, you have resources and you have information that they want to know too. Hey, how do I make my students better for the jobs that you're hiring for? How do I prepare my students better and things like that? And so, but I really think having, again, that connecting piece of maybe like an alumni or somebody that they know, really is going to make a huge difference. I think even more so with the faculty and the career services. I personally just think the career service folks, they're just, if you're hiring folks, they definitely want to at least meet you and everything. But the more personal element that you can put with it, I think the better chance that you have at success. Because I spent a lot of time my first 6 months as a recruiter just sending emails to schools to people that I didn't know. And yeah, I got the runaround, right? And so I think then like once you can meet like one or two, then expanding, like, don't try to just meet all 20 faculty, right? One or two, get connected with them, get to know them well. They'll start to introduce you, things like that. I think is probably the best way to go. So
inch wide but a mile deep. I like it. So let me kind of
great line.
Resurface this to make sure I didn't miss anything. So if I'm kind of starting from zero, even though I think a lot of people say that, what you're saying is, hey, audit your own professional audit. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm learning accounting things.
Public accounting. Yeah. Are you sure you don't want to do accounting, man? You sound like you basically got it all figured out.
Yeah, that's the only thing I need to know.
Right.
It's to really revisit and look at my professional network to see, hey, even if it's not somebody that is a direct faculty member or a direct career services member, maybe they're an influential alumni who can then be used as a bridge or a conduit to these folks. And once I get there, once I start sending out those messages, taking a step back and saying, okay, if I'm writing emails that is just help me do my job better, then the success just isn't going to be there.
Right.
But instead tying in the value of their class or what they do and the resources that you can provide to them, to then say, okay, maybe there's something here, especially for schools where I don't know anybody, I don't have any ground to stand on. And then the last thing is, as opposed to spray and pray across all my relationships, finding the ones that I can really lean on, the 1 to 2 influential folks that can then point me towards other tangential people, such as like a career coach or influential students. So all 3 of those, I feel like that's a pretty good idea of what to do, because that seems like it's easier said than done.
It always is, isn't it though?
Yeah.
Isn't that how that works?
So anything I might have missed or anything that you'd like to add on to instead of that? Because it seems like I got a lot of work to do.
You do. A lot of work. No, I mean, I think it's one of those things. This job, being a recruiter, because you deal with people so much, it's really unique. It's so much more than just filling positions, right? Like I get asked to, fill 4 internship spots. Like I can fill 4 internship spots, but like, are they going to be good candidates? Are they going to be bad candidates? And that's where it's like, again, dealing with the people, it's such a people thing. And so, having the right attitude about that, remembering that you're working with people, I think is the biggest thing, because, we all have feelings and we all have, hopes and desires and things like that. And so remembering that about the people, not only that you're trying to connect with, the people that you're recruiting and everything, but just keeping that in the forefront of your mind, I think is huge. But then also just, like I said, taking the time to really get to know people. It does take time, right? You're not going to create this network in a week. I've been doing this recruiting for 3 years now, and I still feel like my network could expand well beyond where it is now, but like all the while, I'm still like needing to spend the time fostering the relationships that I've built to continue to build those. Don't meet somebody just to meet somebody else and then you forgot about that first person, right? Remember those folks, because you don't know who that person then is going to be able to then connect you with. So that one person can connect you to 5 or 6 more people. But if you just go from one to the next, where's the value in that and everything? And again, it gets back to the human element. I mean, it's if I come here and I'm trying to not make it seem like I'm just getting to know you so that I can do my job well, and as soon as you connect me with somebody else and I'm like, all right, thanks, see ya, I'm sending the exact message of what I'm not trying to do, and so don't forget the human element in it. I think so many, listening to a few of the other folks that have been on your podcast, you've had some really good people on this podcast, honestly.
I'm adding one more to the list when this gets out.
I appreciate that. But no, I mean, just, you hear these recruiters talk and everything. And it's like, there's so much more to being a recruiter. It's so much more about helping find the right people for the right jobs, whether that's with your company or not. Like I said, like I would love to hire the best people every single time, but sometimes the best people out there are not the best people for my company and everything. And so it's huge that's where you gotta completely like look at it more than just a numbers thing, right? Which, as a former accountant, a little tough to do sometimes. So
yeah, seriously. No, I think this has been super valuable. To realize that, yes, this is an exercise in patience, but at the same time to do it in a way where, again, you're not using people as a stepping stone, because if you're going to get frustrated and say, hey, people are using me as a stepping stone, right, maybe it's kind of like, well, am I using people as a stepping stone? So a little bit of a gut check moment. But seriously, Michael, thanks for coming on, explaining not only how you recruit so well, but I can see that coming from your scout days. Seriously, this was a blast, and I'm excited for our listeners to either follow up with you or just kind of put it out to the world to get a little dose of reminder of how to make this into a people business rather than just spray and pray.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, my job is to connect with people. So if anybody wants to find me on LinkedIn, I'm around. It's about to be the summertime, so campus recruiting is definitely at its lowest point right now. So I'm always looking to talk with folks, whether it's about campus recruiting or about positions or things like that. So I'm happy to connect with anybody.
Sweet. All right. Thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you.